Hello and welcome to Pastor's Perspective. I'm your host, Brian Perez. We are here till 4 o'clock today to talk to you about whatever questions you might have about the Bible, the Christian faith, just about anything that's on your mind, prophecy, the book of Revelation, the Gospels, the epistles, anywhere in between. We can talk about it all today here on Pastor's Perspective. And the number to call is 888-564-6173. We will not be live tomorrow, so if you have a question for us, better call in today. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait until Monday. You don't want to go through like a 4-day weekend or a 3-day weekend with these
July
questions.
Weekend.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
You don't want these questions lingering in your mind through the weekend. So call in today at 888-564-6173. And answering your questions today, we've got Tommy Koda. He's here in the studio with me. He's the senior pastor of Hope Alive Christian Hope Alive
Church.
Hope Alive Church. Well, it is a Christian church. Yes.
Yes.
Gotta make that clear. Hope Alive Church in Santa Ana. And joining us online, we've got Phil Metzger, the pastor of Calvary San Diego, which is also a Christian church. Hi there, Phil. How are you?
Phil was there.
Now Bobby's here.
Bobby's
okay,
here.
so
Yeah.
I was gonna wait till the end to introduce Bobby, but yes. So Bobby is here. Bobby Conway.
What happened to Phil?
Pastor of Image Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. Phil, I don't know. Maybe the rapture took place. Could that be? Man.
Only in San Diego.
Only in yes. It's a little bit. It's making its way up. We're next. Yes. All right. So might have Phil on the phone. Maybe that's how we're going to have Phil today. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, we're here to answer the questions you guys got at 888-564-6173. You can also send in your questions through the Pastor's Perspective Facebook Messenger or by DMing us on the Pastor's Perspective Instagram, or you can go to kwave.com, look for the Pastor's Perspective page, and you can fill out the form there. That gets your question here to us, and then we can answer it here on the radio. But the best way to get an answer is to call us, so do so right now. Grab an open line at 888-564-6173. Here's one of those questions that was sent in online. This is from Deirdre in Salinas, California. She sent this on Facebook. Is Jesus still considered a human? And will we be known as human when we're in heaven? Also, why do you suppose Jesus chose John to take care of his mother? Didn't he have sisters and brothers to do this? Bobby, what do you say to Deirdre?
Well, I just think that in that type of society, more of a patriarchal and not a toxic masculine style, it was the responsibility of the man who was seen as the leader of a home to take responsibility. And so you can see that it doesn't imply that nobody else was to make sure that her needs were cared for, but it's also hard for us to know all that was entailed in that statement. I can imagine a conversation before Jesus went to the cross where he pulled John off to the side and said, hey, my mom's about to really go through it, and she's going to really be hurting, and she's going to have these types of needs. And then he reminds him of that from the cross. So that's about all I could say for that without adding any more detail that I might feel like I'm getting into speculative ground.
Tommy?
Yeah, no, that's a very good and interesting question. And perhaps it was maybe Jesus even thinking that, his because the question also said that he had brothers and sisters. And so perhaps maybe it was his brothers and sisters weren't really following him at the time, and so, and John was a disciple and a follower. And so kind of leaning into what Bobby had said too, is like, hey man, leader the way that I've been teaching you, and love her, and those things. So, he didn't, I don't think he said, behold, this is your mother now. It's like, hey, is that how, I don't remember exactly how Jesus said it, but
look that up. I think that's in the end of John there. Could it be that just the other brothers were irresponsible, maybe playing video games in the basement all day, and they couldn't keep a job? I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. But again, it's just speculation. Like what Bobby said. You
Yep.
know?
Yeah, take for example James. So James, the half brother of Jesus, he would eventually believe, right?
Yeah.
Die a martyr's death, write the book of James. But John was very close to Jesus, and you know that Jesus' siblings were criticizing him, thinking that he'd lost his mind at times. And so I do think that that's a good answer that you're giving right there, because they didn't seem like they were all over the place. So, and again, thinking about the spiritual life, there's something even deeper of spiritual connection as Christians that transcend even the physical bonds that we can have when we realize what all that entails. So there have been people that, for example, they're at odds with their family once they become a believer, and they find a new family in the church. And so it is possible that some of that's there, but again, we're a little bit on speculative ground.
Yeah.
Did we cover Deirdre's other question?
Oh, about Jesus being human.
Is he still considered human, and will we be considered human when we're in heaven? Bobby?
Yes. So Jesus, when he took on his human nature, obviously when the resurrection happened, he rose with a physical glorified body. And he's the first fruits of the resurrection, and we too will have glorified bodies someday. But that's pretty powerful. I mean, you think about God becoming flesh, and I'm thinking if I was God and I was already going on this rescue mission, I think I'd want to shed that humanity afterwards. But he preserves that throughout all eternity. He took on a part of us throughout all eternity, and will always remember that. And even the scars that people will get to see that are believers, reminiscent. I mean, if we really digest that, I mean, think about having a moment where maybe Jesus comes up and the technology is already there, and he comes up on a big screen, and there's just millions and millions of people, and he's speaking, and you're looking at these scars that took place 2,000 years ago, or whatever time it'll be at that point. We'll just weep thinking, wow. And then to picture him going, and you still retain that human body, which is amazing. And yet he gets a glorified body, and he gives that to us too when we believe. So it's pretty beautiful.
Yeah. I'm reminded of when after Jesus was crucified, and he appeared to all the disciples, and he appeared to Thomas. He gets there, and he tells Thomas to touch his wounds. They're still there. And just having those wounds remind us of the price that was paid for our sin. That's good.
Yep. And Absolutely. Look, Phil Metzger has joined us.
He's here.
Phil from Calvary San Diego, at least on the phone, maybe on video. I don't know. Hi there, Phil.
Hey, guys. I'm on the phone, but I guess they still got me on the video through Zoom. But,
okay.
I see how it works.
Cool. Yeah, because you were there, but then you just disappeared. Yeah, and I think Bobby just disappeared.
And Bobby does. So the rapture just took place in North Carolina
he's
now.
He's back. Yeah,
he's back. Okay. All right. So we see Phil, but we're hearing him on the phone. But it all makes sense now. Yeah. Thank you, Phil. Did you want to chime in on these questions? Did you get a chance to hear what was asked?
No, I have not heard anything since the show started. There's been no sound on my end. So
okay, so let's start all over. Do we have the music? Let's just start the music all over again. No, I'm joking. So the question was questions. I
believe you call this a hot mess, Brian.
It's what we do best here.
Yeah.
Deirdre sent this in. Why do you suppose Jesus chose John to take care of his mom if he had other brothers and sisters? And then, is Jesus still considered human? And will we be known as human when we're in heaven?
Wow, there's a few questions right there. All
yes.
Right. Well, listen, whatever Tommy and Bobby said, I totally agree with. It's
okay.
100% correct.
Perfect.
And
Perfect.
I know.
That's faith. That's faith right there.
Yeah, because Tommy was saying that you're going to be God when you get to heaven.
Yes.
And so you're a heretic as well.
Oh, man, Tommy.
That's a different radio station, bro.
Yes.
Golly, I thought I could have more faith in you there, Tommy. My goodness. Yeah,
don't listen to Bobby.
You can never trust somebody who was part of a gang, bro. I'm just telling you.
Oh, man. Hey, I've been redeemed.
Yes.
I've been redeemed by the blood of Jesus.
Wait, hold on. I don't think he's talking about that gang, Tom. I think he's talking about the Dodgers gang that you're.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Clayton Kershaw, 3,000 strikeouts. Yeah. Celebrate.
That's true.
Yes.
Although yesterday's game was against the Chicago White Sox, so does that count?
It does. They all count.
Why? I don't think it should.
That's true.
I could strike out the White Sox. Okay, maybe not.
Hey, I want to see that, Bobby. Hey, to speak to that, I didn't hear what anybody said, so if I'm repeating, please just make me stop. I wonder if just because at that point there was still siblings who hadn't put their faith in Jesus as Messiah, and connecting. Is this what you guys talked about? Like probably John would serve as a great kind of person to take care of Jesus' mom, who also believed that he was who he says he was, and I'm sure that changed and shifted. It doesn't seem like that was like his role the rest of her life or his life, but just maybe for that kind of season. So if that's what Tommy said, then he did a good job. If he said something else, then, we'll question it. No.
Okay. I might have been close.
90%,
yeah.
95%.
I was assuming I was right, Tommy, which is absolutely not a good idea.
All right, very good. Deirdre, thank you for sending in your question online. And now we're going to go to the phones at 888-564-6173. We're going to start with Catherine, who's got something important to say that I was going to say in a few minutes anyway. But go ahead, Catherine.
Hi, guys. I just want to, call and say, number one, I love your guys' show. I've been listening for years. And I was listening yesterday, and I heard Dr. Bobby Conway say this is his last day. So that made me sad. But also, hearing your testimony for the very first time inspired me to call in and ask a question. I've been waiting for someone else to ask, but I haven't heard it asked yet. Probably has, but I haven't heard it.
Okay.
I'm a believer who has struggled with addiction my whole life. And I am a believer who's in ministry, who's in service, and I had a lot of sober time. And I recently had a relapse, which was devastating for me. And it's been difficult to get back on track. But I am on track. I'm sober. And there's one question that has come up in a lot of Christian circles, and not just in the world, and the subject is on marijuana. My relapse began with marijuana, thinking that it was medicinal, but for me, it's not. And it was quickly recreational. And then I started having conversations with different people in the church about what they thought about it. And there's a lot of separation there in regards to what no one can find it in the Bible, right? So I've done a lot of research, and I have come to the conclusion the Holy Spirit has placed on my heart that it is sorcery. And that I can't get a lot of people to agree with. So I'd love to hear what your opinion is on cannabis and the recreational use of it.
All right, Bobby.
Well, thanks for calling. I would say one thing, just as a caution, I would be careful to say the Holy Spirit's put that on your heart is sorcery, because if that really is true, then that automatically would indict everybody that would use it for any reason. So that's something we always want to be careful in that, just as a friendly reminder. The way that I look at that personally is the way that I would look at alcohol or anything else when it comes to talking about the use of some of this stuff. Like, is it okay to recreationally get stoned? Well, of course not. Just as it's not okay to recreationally get drunk. But I think that the stigma that is so there is something that you fast forward 50 years from now, it's not going to be the same stigma that it is today. I think that the thing is there's moderation principles that people have to apply. And so somebody, like there's people that use it for sleep. There's cancer patients that use it medicinally for keeping their food down. The problem is if somebody gets into using it even medicinally or recreationally on the daily, then what's going to happen is their tolerance for it's going to start to skyrocket, and it's going to create a lot of problems in that way. But if somebody was to come to me and say, hey, I have cancer and I can't keep my food down. Do you think it's bad to use this for a season so that I can put weight on? This is me personally. I wouldn't see a problem with that. If somebody also came to me and said, hey, every now and then I have recreational marijuana, but I would use it the same way that somebody would have a glass of beer or 2 glasses of beer. I'm not using it to get stoned. I use it because, I'm just enjoying myself to relax, but not stoned. I'm totally functional. I feel like I would have a hard time biblically arguing with that. I could say you need to be cautious. You need to make sure that you're not rationalizing. You need to make sure of all that. But there's all types of things like alcohol and cocaine, and so I would never say, oh, okay, well, sniff a line every now and then, right? Because it's so highly addictive. But is there a place for some of that as it relates to anesthetizing somebody before you go into surgery? And I'd say, well, absolutely. Like if you're going to get surgery, they use codeine and all that to help you to recover. And so it's just different. You have to know that, okay, if you're an addict, is this going to be something that you're able to even think about? So I think that's the way that I would talk about any type of addictive property. There's even discussions today, which it's hard for me to even think about a little bit, but people are talking about how limited amounts of mushrooms that they're helping PTSD patients that have come out of war, and they're finding help in that. And I'm thinking, man, that seems like a can of worms right there. But these are discussions. I'm glad you're asking the question that we have to think through answers. And our immediate temptation is just to think about maybe the way, like for me, I'm thinking about sitting around listening to Pink Floyd, The Wall, and frying on multiple hits of LSD and taking gravity bong hits while I'm smoking cigarettes and drinking a 12-pack of beer at the same time. That's not the way that we can't bring our own experience into the moment. We have to step back and think about, okay, well, if science is getting to a place where they're not getting somebody to go on some hallucinogen where they're thinking that they're Tom Cruise for the day, but it's so light dosed that it does something in the brain. I'm not comfortable with that. Like, it's not something I want to do, but I have to really think through before I say it's absolutely wrong.
Phil Metzger?
No, I love that answer. There was a lot of fun moments in that too, Bobby. Thank you for that. That was really, that brought a lot of joy. But no, I mean, oh my gosh, I'm just listening and thinking that's such a good answer. And it's so easy to be like, it's easy to have a defensive reaction, but I also like that, we got to help people to learn how to take the time to just pause and think and reflect and see this biblically. And so, no, I have nothing to add other than I think Bobby is amazing, and I thought that was a great answer.
Yeah,
Tommy.
Yeah,
thank you.
What I would say, Catherine, just by listening to your question, this is on recreational use of marijuana, and you mentioned that you struggled and you come from a life, of addiction, and how your recreational use, little by little of marijuana kind of led you into a full-on, just back into using whatever that was, whatever it's, alcohol or any other, drug or anything like that. And, one of the things that I would just be very careful because, I think when we talk about like the medicinal use of narcotics, whether it's like, oxycodone or whatever, or even marijuana in this case, for cancer patients and everything, sometimes, for people, like I myself, I was a drug addict for 15 years of my life, just getting to the point where I was sticking needles in my arm and shooting up and, led to just a lot of heartache. And I know, like, if I were to, just even, drink a little bit, like for some people may have that liberty, or they don't have that vice of addiction, to where they can have maybe a glass of wine, every now and then, and that'll be it. Like, and for my case, Catherine, having a same kind of sounds like a similar background with you with addiction. Like if I have a glass of wine, if I choose to have a glass of wine, it's like I already know. It's
the wheels are coming off.
6 months. Yeah, talk to me 6 months down the road. It's gonna, it isn't gonna be a glass. It's gonna be a bottle. You're gonna find me, out there in the street, smoking cigarettes, hustling dope or something. Like, hey, what happened? And it all started with the glass of wine, and God, what God has. Sounds like he's delivered you. He's saved you. He's you're seeking the Lord, and we have these vices. And so just using wisdom when it comes to these types of things, whether it's alcohol or even recreational use, and the invitation is like, come on, here, have this little gummy. It's not a big deal. Well, for people like you, myself, and and Bobby for that matter, those are big deals. It's gonna ruin my life, and it's like it's gonna take me all the way back, to where I, where God had brought me from, and so, I think God is trying to show you something in this, like, hey, this is not for you, this isn't for you. And, and for anybody else that might be listening that have, background with addiction and all these things, and it's really easy, I think, especially in many states and here in California with the legalization of marijuana and all these dispensaries around, it's just so easy to justify now. It's like, oh, well, it's legal now, and it's not against the law now, so I guess I'm, it's a little bit better, it's a little easier, and then we kind of justify, it's like, well, God created it, so why not, and it's like, well, okay, well, if that's the case, it's kind of like, we can say God created poison ivy too, but we don't go rubbing that on our skin, do we? Because we know that's harmful for us, and so it's just really exercising wisdom in all of these things, and knowing what God's delivered you from, and it is a battle. It's for some, it was a daily battle for me, for the first couple of years in my walk and my journey with the Lord, and I'm just glad that there's my family is there, and we've just made a commitment together. It's like, hey, this is not something we're going to ever entertain, and all by God's grace, just having to live with sobriety now for 25 years now. This past June 11th was 25 years of sobriety and 25 years of walking with Jesus, and it's all by the grace of God. But it's not an easy journey. It is a battle.
Yeah, Catherine, what do you think?
No, that was so good. Yeah, I really needed to hear that from a pastor's perspective, because in my space, I have just thought no for everybody. So that's good. I don't want to judge people unfairly.
Yeah. Bobby, any other thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's normal, because when you've been wrecked by addiction, it's easy for us to come out swinging with black and white. But I've just realized, like, I've just seen people drink. My wife drinks in moderation. Now if I'm out with her, there's certain things like I don't want to sit at a bar because that might make, because I don't want people to think, oh shoot, is Bobby having a relapse right now? Or she called me even like about a month ago, like, and asked if I'd pick up a bottle of wine for her. I said, honey, I'm not going to do it. I could totally do that. If we were out of town somewhere and you need a bottle of wine, I'd bring it home for you. But people know that I'm a pastor in this area, and they also know that I had a relapse 7 years ago, so that could send mixed messages. Early on, as a Christian, I would have thought everybody was wrong for drinking. Mm-hmm. And my wife didn't even start to drink until we'd already been married for almost 15 years. And it doesn't bother me at all, because my kids drink in moderation. I think most people can drink in moderation. In fact, I wish I could drink in moderation, because I would join the moderation club. But my experience 7 years ago got me a seat back in AA in no time. So I think it's just knowing where we are, but there are people with addictions, and not everybody with one addiction struggles with all addictions. I mean, there's people that go to AA, and then they can, they might be the person that does recreational marijuana, go, you know what? that it doesn't send them down the rabbit hole that alcohol does. But other people would say, oh yeah, man, that's going to be a gateway for me. So I think what I would try to say is know yourself and realize that we're different. And we have to realize that, because my fear is for example, there's some Christians that will basically, there's some Christians that can drink in moderation, but they're feeling guilty for having a glass of wine at dinner because they're around other Christians that tell them that Christians should never drink. And they're putting something on that person that I don't think God's putting on them. So for me, I know that what it looks like when to start picking stuff up and drinking is very dangerous. Mm-hmm. And so just being mindful of where everybody's at and being tender toward everyone else is really wise. But I do think Tommy and Phil and myself hopefully offered you some perspective.
Yeah. And I do think that, there's so many different, viewpoints when it comes to alcohol, especially within the church and everything. And just like what Bobby said, it's like we all, we have our own personal convictions. And I think that's what's important. It's like, what is the Lord leading you, this is your journey with the Lord. This is your walk. And those personal convictions, they can be very heavy for you and right, and good to where you really sense this is the leading of the Lord in my life. But it can be something very easy to where we begin to impose these kinds of convictions on other people, and so we do have to be very careful with that, So I would just encourage for everyone listening, believers, like, man, just really, seek the Lord, and if there's a conviction there where the Lord's like, hey, you know what, no, you're better without this. Well, then I would say listen to the Lord, and if you don't sense that, well, then, hey, that's the leading of the Lord in that.
So probably every answer we just gave to Catherine would apply to Sam, who sent this in through kwave.com. But let me read it, see if you guys want to add anything. Sam says, after 25 years of sobriety, I found myself face first in the ground. I started using drugs again and lost my son by the courts, almost lost my wife, and have regained 2 years of sobriety this year. My question is, I've messed my life up for so many years. I owe back child support. I haven't filed taxes in 4 years. I have no money to pay a CPA, no money to pay child support and still live. I have constant anxiety that I'm going to be thrown in prison. And as much as I seek guidance from God, I only receive silence. How do I get this constant anxiety out of my life and stomach? Are there resources to help someone like me? I've messed up my life so much, it seems like it's not fixable anymore. I'm beyond depressed and fearful of the ability to survive my current family with my current situations. Bobby, what do you say to Sam?
Geez, let me think about Sam's statement a little bit and throw it over to Phil, if you don't mind, because
there is a lot.
Such a tender pastor's heart.
Yeah.
But there's some thoughts I have, but I'd love to hear what Phil had to say on that.
Okay, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, I know our time is a bit brief at the moment. So obviously, Brian, just tell me when I'm done if I can't hear it. I just start with
you've got about about a minute to 90 seconds,
okay.
Just so you know.
All right, well, I can always blab for that. But honestly, as a pastor, I'm just thinking dude, that is heartbreaking, first of all. And I guarantee you, Sam, there's other people that have these kinds of situations in one form or another, so you're not alone. In terms of resources, I really want to point you to connecting in with a local church and letting them help you with those resources. If you can't find the local church that has it, go to a mega church in your area. Whether you agree with the mega church or not, they're probably going to have information on good resources. Mm-hmm. That's been my experience. Look for those resources that are local. I think what we care about, what burdens us so much is that dude, you hit rock bottom and then you're feeling like I'm still at rock bottom because I'm not hearing from God. God isn't meeting me. Let me suggest to you, God is present. He is present. You may not be feeling anything. It's possible that you're trying to revert to experiences you've had with God when you were brand new or 25, 30 years ago. That's not your situation anymore. And so we need to trust the Lord and have faith in him, even in the moment that you're currently in, Sam. God has not abandoned you, bro. I promise you that.
Yeah. Tommy, 20 seconds? Or do you
Yeah, that's a good word. And Sam, I would say, man, if you've asked God to forgive you, in this process, you are forgiven, and that's the goodness of God, and just rest in the forgiveness of the Lord and allow Him to restore you.
Yeah. All right, we'll see what Bobby wants to tell Sam when we come back here on Pastor's Perspective, and we'll see what you want to tell Bobby. It's his last day with us today on Pastor's Perspective. 888-564-6173 is our number. We will be back in just a few minutes here on Pastor's Perspective. 888-564-6173. We're back on Pastor's Perspective. 888-564-6173 is the number to call. I'm Brian Perez in the studio with Tommy Coda, the pastor of Hope Alive Church in Santa Ana. We're also joined by Phil Metzger, the pastor of Calvary San Diego. He's joining us online. And author and apologist Dr. Bobby Conway, the pastor of Image Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, whom you see on the YouTube channel called The Graphite Apologist. If you haven't already liked and subscribed that YouTube channel, do it now, The Graphite Apologist, so that you can keep connected with Bobby after he leaves us.
I know.
From Pastor's Perspective, which today is his last day, and we're going to miss him. And so will Patsy in San Marcos, who's watching us on YouTube right now. Hey, Patsy.
Oh, of course. And I have been with Pastor's Perspective for many, many years. I've watched the changing of the guards, and I never saw a guard that I did not think was a blessing from God. And yes, Bobby, I'm not ready to say I'm an old lady, but I'm surely an old girl. And I think what you are doing is wonderful. To connect art with Bible is, and I have a dog crawling on me. She's 100 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no. And she pulls my computer.
Oh, no, that would not be good, because it says here that you're watching us on YouTube. But yeah, Patsy, Bobby, how he's connected the church with art and how he continues to do that. Tell us a little bit about the Graphite Apologist, what your mission is with that, your vision.
Yeah, so that's been a lot of fun for those watching. I just finished up this piece.
Nice.
Did my wife this past week. My Barbie doll. But yeah,
Bro,
I'm
that's
doing
amazing, bro.
Yeah.
I'm doing videos called On the Graphite Apologist, where I take my drawings that take like 20 hours, and then there's 60-second shorts that are shown, and I'm answering apologetic questions through art. And so I'm drawing C.S. Lewis, Francis Schaeffer, and I've got all kinds of pieces that I'm working on. There's a part of me that wants to slow it down, though, because I'm putting out pieces, and it takes a long time to bring out what I really love to do is the hyperrealism. But we're putting out 2 to 3 videos per week, and people can check out the Graphite Apologist. And then I just launched Ponder, and they can even see that at the Graphite Apologist on YouTube. If they'll subscribe, that would mean a lot. That's how they can keep in touch with me. I'll be doing lots of lives that are going to be starting up. So if you want to continue to follow my ministry, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then my art's coming out on T-shirts.
I'm seeing that right now, bro.
And
you got
prints. I'll have special edition prints as well. And so it's called Ponder because I want, to create art worth thinking about that gives us conversation points to have. So yeah, that's what I'm doing and really looking forward to it.
You got to send Tommy a new baseball cap so that he can take off that LA Dodgers
T-shirt,
cap.
man. Hey, these are look pretty cool, man. Some cool merch. That's it.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate that.
Gives you something to ponder on.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, some of them are canvases, but that's Soren Kierkegaard that you see right there. He talked about the existential leap of faith. And so, yeah, you just see it all kind of come together while I'm explaining. So all the T-shirts then have videos that explain them. And so it's just kind of a exciting way to do what, a lot of people don't care about apologetics, but they will get into it through art. But then my T-shirts, they don't say anything. So even if people aren't Christians, they could start buying them, and they might not realize how much detail I built into the point of the shirt.
Yeah.
Do you, on each of the shirt, do you have a QR code or something that would take people to the page on your YouTube channel that explains what the video is all about?
That's a good question. I should. And now that you're asking that, I'm just trying to figure it out. I didn't even know I could draw until a year and a half ago. And so I don't know how to start a T-shirt company, and I'm doing that. And I'm terrible with technology, and I'm trying to put these videos out there. So I really have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just showing up and hoping that the Lord will bless it. This has been more of the comfort zone, answering questions, but as I've said, I've never had a gift come so quickly as in my life is art, and I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, and speaking of gifts, if people wanted to support your ministry, both at your church there and through everything that you're doing online, how could they do that?
Well, that would be huge. If anybody, would be open to being a monthly supporter, they would go to ChristianityStillMakesSense.com. That was a site that, I was doing a lot of stuff with. I'll be changing all the names up, but if they go to ChristianityStillMakesSense.com, there's a donate button, and people could give a one-time offering or monthly support. But yes, in this new adventure, while I'm trying to start a bunch of things, it's kind of like there's no income yet. And so people that might believe in my ministry and want to get behind what I'm doing, trying to use art to help people to defend the faith, if they wouldn't mind going to ChristianityStillMakesSense.com, click the donate button, and we're also going to be launching a new email subscriber list next week. And so I'll be really keeping in touch with our donors, sending new products, giving opportunities for first editions, and all that kind of stuff. So the relationship with me can go on, and that's what they could do.
That's awesome. ChristianityStillMakesSense.com. Catherine in San Diego, listening on the K-Wave app. Hello.
Hi. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, go ahead. What is your question for us today?
My question is, Bobby, why are you leaving?
Why am I leaving? Well, I feel like at this stage, there's a couple things. I know that K-Wave, for example, is very excited about, my endeavor. They are behind me on planting a church and, thankfully even promoting what I'm doing. So this is nothing weird that has went on with K-Wave in the least. About a year and a half ago, I even sensed that, some direction change could be taking place where that would come down the road. I'm not live in studio. I'm on the East Coast. And so I know that they've built up a relationship with a lot of local people and would love to be able to even have somebody in studio at some point. But I don't know a lot of the future direction with K-Wave, what it's going to be. But I know they're going to keep that radio show going. And Brian and I are super tight. I mean, he's literally like a hero, a mentor. We have never had one South moment. He's been so gracious with my lead time on this show. So I have nothing but positive things to say. In fact, I'm going to be jumping on the show after a season if they ever want me to come back on as a guest. So all that to say, I just had a pastor, for example, leave the church, and I made the announcement. And I'm always worried when I do that people think, oh, something went wrong. Nothing went wrong. It's just Pastor Brian resigned from being the lead guy of Calvary. And, I think that they're going to look at some point maybe of getting somebody that's more local. But I don't even know for sure if that's set in stone. If it is, that's what it is. But I'm so thankful for the opportunity I have to be here. And I also think for me, God's given me this new artistic gift, and I'm going to go and try and pursue that.
And you can you can still hear Bobby on the weekends here on K-Wave. His program called Christianity Still Makes Sense is on Saturday nights at 6:30. Also Sunday afternoons at, oh goodness, I forget, 3 o'clock, I think, or 2:30, somewhere, I think it's 2:30. I can look on kwave.com on the programs page. Catherine, thank you for your phone call. Jerry in Anaheim, what did you want to ask Bobby?
Yes, I've heard. Well, again, I'm sad that Bobby's leaving too. But God takes us different adventures. I've heard Bobby talk about being post-trib, or possibly being post-trib. I'm just curious, what led you to that? Because I have a friend who's like staunch post-trib, and he mentioned something about dispensationalists and how that kind of throws off, like there's a debate between pre and post because of it.
Okay, Bobby.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be very brief so that my teammates don't have to listen to me talk here.
This is your last day, bro. Go for it, man.
Well, again, but we're still a team, and I want to hear from you guys as well.
Amen.
There's three of us. So I would just say, I guess I'm just confused about the timing of it all. And it was presented as this is the only way, this is when it's going to happen. And then I just started reading the other views and going, wow, it's not as clear as I was taught. And for me, it's just about being faithful to my listeners to say there's different viewpoints out there. Mm-hmm. And I'm a confusionist on it. I lean post-trib, but I've said I would hate to guarantee people a pre-trib option and then be the pastor left with the congregation trying to lead them through a tribulation. I'll have a lot of tribulation in my church because people will be like, you told me we were going to be out of here and we're in the middle of this thing. And so maybe it's just a secure way of saying, hey, if I find myself going through the tribulation, the church will stick with me because I let them know that it's possible that we'll be around in the middle of it.
Yeah. Phil?
So much good stuff in there. A confusionist.
A confusionist,
yeah. Yeah, that's going to be the new one, bro. I love that. And,
that's his next T-shirt.
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm just waiting. I was like literally looking at your Pond merch, and I was thinking that's going to be a dope shirt. Pre-trib, post-trib, and then the Confucianists. Yeah. But I honestly do agree with you. You know, I think we both kind of came from the background of like pretty, you know, feeling pretty kind of almost like overconfident in a theological perspective. And then you realize, my goodness, as you really get into this and as you study and as you take time to consider other perspectives, you realize these are not foolish perspectives. These are not foolish ideas. There is, and I think I might adopt that term, Confucianist. I think I like that a lot because, and almost the idea that like let's just be honest, like, you know, I have a perspective, but I'm comfortable with some of the other perspectives in the sense that like I want to have a humility that says, hey, I just want to prepare people to meet Jesus, and the timing of that is, you know, maybe it is a little bit difficult to be dogmatic in some ways. I may lean more in a pre-tribulation perspective, but I have such high respect and value a post-tribulationalist perspective and other perspectives. And so I'm totally in agreement. And these are not issues, friends listening to this, watching this, these are not issues that should divide us. These are things that should make us be able to have a good, healthy, fun conversation that ends with us laughing together and really celebrating that we all love Jesus. And that's really what it comes down to for me.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was going to share is like, you know, these are the different eschatological views and positions that people have. Sometimes, you know, people can get so dogmatic and so dig their heels in on these issues and not be willing to reason and not be willing to like listen, because this isn't something, you know, that should be dividing, you know, Jesus people, you know, people who love Jesus, because there's different positions and different ideas and views in all of this. And it is unfortunate that at times this can be a divisive tool that the devil would actually use, you know, to bring division amongst people. And this isn't one of them. You know, let's just keep our focus on Jesus, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, when you listen to all the different positions and everything, you can end up confused and take the position of a Confucius. So,
yeah, I mean, the big thing I would say is I have found that typically your most dogmatic people on issues that are really black and white are people that have listened to the choir preach to them. Like, they have not been exposed to other views. They've only been studied in their own camp. They have a select number of authors that they're comfortable with. And I'm just not wired that way. I look at different things. I think about different things. I don't try to put everybody in a box. And I believe that Jesus died on a cross, rose from the grave physically, and is bodily going to return again. And I have my faith and trust in him. And there's a lot of different discussions that we can have as believers, but the rigidity, I was more rigid as an early believer in my ignorance than I am now with 2 doctorates. I feel more ignorant now on things. And part of that ignorance that I feel is I've studied a lot of different views. And so when I hear people talk in sharp dogmatism, it's usually, they might sound strong, but they're often very narrowly educated in a certain lane. And if they were to debate somebody that's broadly trained, they would probably really get taken to the laundromat quickly.
For sure. All right, let's go to and Jerry, thank you for calling in. Let's go to Monrovia now. Hi, who's this?
Oh, is this me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, I'm Andrea, and I was wondering if it's possible for me, instead of asking a question, I just wanted to say how moved I am from Pastor Bobby's testimony yesterday and today, where he talked about all of the different things that he did in the past. I found that way more motivating than when pastors say that they've never drank before, they've never done this or that. It was just really refreshing to have someone share the things that they have done and how the Lord has changed them. And so I just wanted to say I'm really going to miss Pastor Bobby because I always looked forward to your answers to all of the questions. And now I'm not going to have a chance to ask all the other questions that I had for you as well. But I have called in and you have answered some of my questions. And I just wanted to say I was really grateful.
Thank you so much. It's very kind of you to say. And again, to everybody listening, you guys have been an amazing audience. I've loved my relationship with you. I'm going to miss you guys very much. And let's keep the conversation going by subscribing to the Graphite Apologist. And you can even ask me your questions on live. I might even be doing, if I get it, enough of you guys over there, we can always look at doing 30-minute live shows or something once a week, and you can just ask me everything's on the Graphite Apologist.
Nice.
As well. So I'm happy to serve. It's just going to be in a different venue.
And please don't do it at this time slot because you'll steal all the listeners away, and it's just like, come on, man.
I would never want to do that, and that's for sure.
I'm joking, man. Elizabeth and Chino listening on Facebook or watching on Facebook. Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just parroting what. Thank you. It is. I'm just was listening, chimed in like at 3:20 because I'm preparing for tomorrow in the kitchen here, and I heard you guys announce that again. Bobby Conway is off. The good doctor is off onto other endeavors, and yeah, I just have enjoyed the show and all of you and Bobby and. Congratulations on everything, and wow, I was shocked. I'm surprised that you're leaving, but it happened, and I'm really excited and happy for you and your family and everything that you're going forward with.
Thank you so much. Boy, I feel like I'm starting to get emotional in my soul right now, and hopefully I won't break down and start crying on you guys. This really has been such an amazing time. Just thankful for you guys and thankful to the team and thankful for allowing me to show up in all of my brokenness. And God Brian Broderson isn't here, but God really used him to restore my soul in ministry and his belief in God's hand on me. Oh man, just the words of gratitude I have for Brian Broderson.
Okay, let's turn this into a roast. That way Bobby doesn't get emotional. So Phil Metzger, if you want to start roasting Bobby, then,
Okay, I'll start. Bobby, what is this 2 doctorates thing that you just mentioned? I want to hear. I want to know. People want to know. What's going on? What's happening? Talk to me.
You what do you mean, like how I got them or why I got them?
Yeah, you said you have listen, it took me my whole life to get 1, and now you have 2. What is happening, dude? Talk to me.
Well, it's called being an addict that got sober and threw his addiction into studying. And so, a lot of my education, I was a guy that couldn't pass the test to get in the military. I failed the ASVAB 3 times. I had to pay somebody to type my papers in Bible college. When I met Heather, I sat outside Chili's and I wouldn't go in because I didn't think I could learn the menu. That's how uneducated I was. I was the senior sitting in class with sophomores, and I was a dumb butt, basically. But I fell in love with Jesus, and I felt like the way to know him more is I had to learn to read. And, I bought a little pocket dictionary, and I started studying adjectives because I felt like I didn't have a vocabulary to describe my love for God. And I started learning adjectives so that I could increase my vocabulary.
Wow.
To give him my thanks and my praise. And I just started learning and studying. And so much of my studies was rooted in my own insecurities of what I didn't know. And then somewhere along the line, while I was at Dallas Seminary, I started feeling like, wow, I actually love academics and maybe could have done more of this, but it just wasn't shaped that way from early childhood. But God got a hold of me and gave me this, and that's what happened.
Wow. I don't think I've ever heard that adjective story before. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good story. And listen, you can go off the show, but you and I and Brian still got a date at that restaurant that we've been talking about forever.
Bro, I would love to do that. That would be amazing.
Yeah, man, that is so cool, Bobby. You know, and just to hear how the Lord captured your life, man, and your heart. And you know, there's a lot of just coming from a background very similar. You know, both of us with addiction and everything. And one of the things I really just want to say, if I can appreciate, you know, just kind of add to what the callers are saying here, Bobby, is like, man, you've you know, I there's a little acronym I say at church, KIR. Man, you keep it real, bro. You know, and you're open and transparent with a lot of things, and I know that ministers to a lot of people. It ministers to me when I'm listening in the car or something like that, and I got my earphones in, and I was like, man, that is so cool, because it just kind of gives people like, man, you know, I can pursue this. If God did it for Bobby, He could do it for me too, you know, and so that's a good thing, man. Just really appreciate you and all the wisdom and all that stuff, man. Let's keep pressing and pushing forward for Jesus.
Thank you so much, bro. Praise God.
So I have some statistics here. Bobby started in January 2019. It is now the middle of 2025, so 6.5 years. And in that 6.5 years, we were not able to convert him to pre-trib. So I think that's something Pastor Brian looks at, that he looks at as a failure on his part. Yes.
Yep.
Hey, I'm open.
We just discussed that right now, right?
I really do. Post-tribulation sounds miserable. I'm the guy that, look, I've said I'd be a horrible missionary, and I like comfortable things in life. I don't like mosquitoes in the South here. I don't like humidity. I'm a pretty jacked up dude, and I hope that you guys are right on pre-trib, because that sounds a lot more comfortable.
Yes, and not liking all those bugs and everything in the South. Yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why you thought Satan was having you plant a church in North Carolina, until Pastor Brian said, no, Bobby, Satan doesn't tell people to plant churches.
I remember that.
Yes, we survived COVID together. Tug of War Tuesdays with Tony Clark. Those were always awesome. Man. Yeah. And all these are probably archived on Facebook and YouTube, so you can go back 6.5 years worth of material.
Wasn't it Pastor Tony Clark that also coined the Good Doctor?
The Good Doctor and Doctor. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah.
I know, right? You
good
guys
memories.
Spoiled me rotten all these years. Thank you so much.
So keep on listening to Bobby on Christianity Still Makes Sense here on K-Wave, Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. and also Sundays at, you know what? I should have looked it up online really quick before I said anything, but it's on Sundays. Tommy's on Sundays as well, and Saturdays. But Bobby's Sunday slot is 3.
2?
I'm looking at the wrong. It's either 2 or 3. It's somewhere around there. Why can't I find it?
Just keep listening, and you'll
just
hear
listen 24 hours, and you will hear Bobby eventually.
Yeah.
There he is, 3 p.m. on Sundays, and support his ministry, ChristianityStillMakesSense.com. Subscribe to his YouTube channel, The Graphite Apologist, and his newsletter on ChristianityStillMakesSense.com. Blessings to you, Bobby. Love you, man.
Love you, Bobby.
Love you guys, too.
God bless you, man. I was happy to be here with you on this last day.
An honor.
For sure.
Forever grateful.
All right, guys. God bless you. We'll see you at church on Sunday. No program tomorrow, Friday, July 4th, and then we'll be back in the studio on Monday. So for Tommy Koda and Phil Metzger and Bobby Conroy, I'm Brian Perez. Thanks for listening and watching Pastor's Perspective.